What an epic Italian tour. I mean, last week I landed, the very first day I landed in Bologna, I went to Lamborghini, the home of Lamborghini. I did a factory tour there and did a tour through their museum. From there, I slept over in Bologna the first night. The next morning got up, did a factory tour at Ducati, then did the museum tour at Ducati. Then I started that 140-kilometer drive down to Rimini, Riccione, the Adriatica. But on the way I stopped at Imola. Now, that famous circuit, I had to pay homage and my respects to Ayrton Senna. What a great F1 driver. We lost him way too soon. But this year, 2024, is the 30th anniversary of Ayrton's passing. So I stopped off at Imola, did a little bit of a walk around the circuit, stunning place, and then finished the drive down to Rimini, Riccione. There I got my armband and the tickets for World Ducati Week. So then the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, was just epic, iconic, awesome. Just World Ducati Week, brilliant, have to do it. If you ever get the chance, it was my 7th one and I enjoyed it as much as my first one. Now, in between that, I squeezed a trip to Pesaro, the birthplace of Benelli, and there I visited the Benelli Museum. They have all the Benellis and Motobis, the elder brother that started the breakaway and then rejoined as Benelli. So I did that museum tour, and then I finished off with a visit to Tavullia, where Rossi was born, Rossi's birthplace, and Tavullia there now. It's all about Rossi. His new shop is open, his ranch is there, his restaurant is there. Had to do that. Any motorcycle fan would want to visit that place. From there I took the long drive up over 400 kilometers to Lake Como, which is one of the most beautiful places on this planet in my mind. But there again I had to come to Moto Guzzi, the birthplace, the original birthplace of Moto Guzzi. They're in the same location, Mandello del Lario. And those of you who follow the channel, you know I've got a couple of special Moto Guzzis. Really, I love the Italian hand-built special bikes. So I did a museum tour here at Moto Guzzi today, and then late this afternoon I drive through to MV Agusta, and I had to do that museum visit once more. So what an epic trip. I did pretty much everything and more that I wanted to achieve in this week, besides also visiting and sightseeing Lake Como and places like that. So guys, join me for this episode. I will show you the Moto Guzzi, the MV Agusta museums, and then tomorrow I climb back onto a plane, fly via Zurich back home to South Africa and back to normality. Here we have a model of the overall factory and the layout, and as you can see over here's where I parked, walked across the road, there's that iconic red gate, and down in the bottom over here is the wind tunnel. Now this is the original birthplace and the original factory. You can see all the old buildings and the new buildings in white. Here's a very first Moto Guzzi ever built in a glass cabinet. Turning right, you see the first of, I think it's 4 or 6 halls, and just absolutely impressive. All these bikes fully restored, mint condition, and this is really history and heritage preserved. This is the Cardellino 65 Turismo from 54 to 56. I have one of these in the collection, same with the rear suspension and the 2 springs up front. However, this is the Turismo single seat with a rack at the back. Mine has a little bit of that tank and not the monoposto, the biposto, the 2-seater. But this suspension configuration, same motor, Cardellino 65. And then if we go further forward, there are more bikes here, and instantly recognizable as the Colors are by Stornello, but it's the Falcone. Here we have the Zigolo 98 and the Zigolo the 110. I have a Zigolo 98 in the collection in red and silver, and just absolutely iconic as well for Moto Guzzi, one of the most successful produced for a very, very long time, from 53 all the way to 66, I think it was. That's a little bit the color and look of mine back there. Zigolo 98 there, 98, 54, that old one, rear suspension, that pick over there. And then going further forward, yes, then I have a 71 Stornello. Here is a Stornello, but an earlier one, 68 to 70. Mine is the slightly later Stornello, 71 Stornello. And going through to the end, a couple of mopeds, scooters, which was very, very popular in the early 70s. Here is the wind tunnel, and pioneers in the wind tunnel, obviously Moto Guzzi. Iconic. Center stand was their invention, wind tunnel was their invention, and that's why if you look at that dustbin fairing here, you can see the rider on the bike, the guy in the test facilities, and that is sending air through here, simulating high speed, looking how the airflow is running, and there's the turbine at the back and wind blowing out the back. And yeah, that was another innovation by Moto Guzzi. And here is the facility from 1958, and let's have a look. Where are we? That iconic red gate is right over there where we entered. I parked across the road over here, and yes, the wind tunnel would be up there. Yes, there you can just see the top of it. That is the wind tunnel over there. This is the production facility, and on the same spot, same location as its birthplace. Yeah, Moto Guzzi. Yeah, very cool. The lift. This is the lift up, bringing bikes up here. Now, very cool. Going up here. But how cool is this? This is an old office as it used to be, with a desk and all the awards and racing pictures. The old drawing board with a drawing on. You can see a single, the more modern suspension, and this is period appropriate with some of the trophies, some of the pictures. This is a time warp. If ever you want to go through a museum with a time warp, here are all the motors, cutaways where you can see them, you can see the kickstart, you can see the gear changes, you can see everything. That salami slicer, you can see the gearboxes, and all the opening here is an aircraft motor by Moto Guzzi, and here you can see that V, 90-degree V, as it's been V35 all the years. And here you can start seeing the 850, the looks very correct, the heads as per the Le Mans. Here you're talking the motor inside the wheel of a bicycle. Very, very cool stuff here. There's a parallel twin. Here's another motor that drove a bicycle wheel directly. Here you have the quattros, the inline fours, and just ultra cool. Here you've got the shaft drive assembly of the Guzzi rear suspension. There you can see some of the drawings, but the queen of this display must be, in my book, this stunning beauty over here. Now what that is, it is the V8, the V8. Only 6 bikes were ever produced, and they're all still in existence, all still in museums. I think only 3 are still running, but this is one of those motors that comes out of that. There you can see the 4 that side. You can see the carburetors with the Venturis. Yes, that is 8 carburetors with 8 Venturis. Now imagine setting that. There's your 4 headers this side, going to the other side, your clutch assembly, here's your other 4 headers. Now, that is the queen of the display in my book, and hopefully just now in the race department we will get to see that V8 racer, and that is the bike I'm wanting to build the tribute to from the V7 Centenario. Only 2 V7 Centenarios in South Africa, of which I own both. Yes, one in a crate, call me greedy or not so greedy, one in a crate, pure display unit. The other one I've been riding, and that is the one that I want to convert to a, call it a tribute bike to the V8 Otto. The dustbin fairing, the colors, Moto Guzzi has already prepared. So, awesome display. Now entering my favorite room. I obviously had to take the sound off here because we're walking on this old wooden floor and it's creaking and making way too much noise. But these are some of the coolest things, prototypes, inventions, things that started the racing, from rudimentary bicycles with motors on it, all the way as you're walking along here, as technology advances and they're pushing the envelope from singles to twins to 4 cylinders. Here you start with that dustbin fairing, the aerodynamic. This bike number 51 is actually a 350cc GP racer. Next to it, this bike 72 is a 350 GP racer of 1956, and you can already see the whole aero development. This bike right around the corner, this is the most iconic bike and my favorite bike. This is the V Otto Cilindri V8 racer. I'm back in front of my favorite bike, and the custom bike I'm looking to do on that V7 Centenario. I've got 2. Yes, the one is still in the crate, the other one is out. I've run in, and it is my next custom job, and this is pretty much what I want to emulate. The reason I want to build it according to this, because V7 Centenario is 100-year celebration. Now, the most important model in the history of Moto Guzzi, maybe not the most important, but the longest continuous production would be this V7. V for the V motor, 7 because it started as a 700, 750 and now 850. It's still a current model. But the colors of the Centenario come from this. You have the green body panels, you've got the silver tank. This is aluminium. It's painted silver now on the Centenarios. You have the brown leather seat, and you have the gold badging. So yes, this is the tribute bike. I want to make the V7 Centenario look a little bit like this with the dustbin fairing, give it a modern retro spin on it. Because it's already got the colors by Moto Guzzi from launch, I want to give it a little bit of the shape with the fairing. I'll have a look if I can do spoked wheels. But yes, absolutely iconic and awesome, and this is going to be the next custom job. Now, just looking at this bike, it's actually a marvel how they got that right. This is a V8 500cc racer. Now, if you think about it, each cylinder is actually really tiny. It's like 500cc divided by 8, that's the size per cylinder. And here you have your tiny little exhausts, as you can see. This whole thing is crammed into this little fairing and minimalistic. There's absolutely no turning angle on this front wheel. If you have a look at this slim fairing and the gap underneath for that wheel to actually turn. So the only way to turn this motorcycle is to really lean it and try and crank it over. So minimalistic motorcycle. There you have the air ducts. Here you have some of the basic specs, 1955 to 1957, only 6 ever built. Now here you see the rest of the racing hall and some really interesting iconic bikes, the early races, the 500cc, and Albatross. You have on the other side over here, you have the more modern ones, the Bol d'Ors, the endurance races, the Daytona races, really cool stuff. I mean, Moto Guzzi was very present when it came to racing. Here you have the compressor. This is the compressor being a supercharged 250 supercharge. You can see they really tested everything and tried everything. Here's that really technologically advanced Moto Guzzi motor, if you want to call it, in that crazy Daytona 1000. These are really cool examples, and when you have that perception of a Moto Guzzi being an old man's bike, these are really cool and different motorcycles, and it's so great to see all the technology. I mean, already in the 50s playing with superchargers on bikes. You also see the old racing suits. I mean, these guys were absolute heroes and brave beyond what they had as safety equipment. Going downstairs, you see the more modern bikes from the last 10 years, the current ranges as well, some really cool stuff. But I have covered this in a previous episode. Here is that MGX Moto Guzzi Experimental. I've got one in my collection. Next to it is the Audacious, coming from the California, and on the other side here you see the current model, the V100s, really cool as well, also in the iconic V8 Centenario colors. Next to it the V85 TT Tutto Terrano all-terrain, next to it the Bobber, and here you have some of the most important models over the last 100-year history of Moto Guzzi. That was it. I've covered that in a previous episode, every single bike going through carefully, but now I'm leaving on my way to the MV Agusta Museum. Here we are at the MV Agusta Museum. Now at first glance from the outside you think you're at a helicopter museum, but yes, once inside you immediately are greeted by some of these iconic MV Agusta race bikes, red on top, silver at the bottom, as Giacomo Agostini made him famous. Flanked by some of the older ones. Yes, back in the day, if it had two wheels and a motor, they went racing, and that was a very important part in the history of MV Agusta. As you can see behind it, some of the trophy cabinets and very, very ornate and really spectacular trophies from back in the day. Very proud history for MV Agusta, and that's what put MV Agusta on the map. But walking around, you can see everything, the history of MV Agusta, from scooters, small bore, all the way from 70cc, 100cc, 125, 150cc, everything, transportation, single pistons, going to twins, and even to the inline 4-cylinder, as you can see this model up here, and shaft drive even, as you can see an example over here, and the drawing at the back. These models with the squarer bodies are obviously from the 80s later, and the early models, you can see most of them have a number board on them because racing was a very important part of the MV Agusta story. Here's the Holy Grail, if you want to call it. These are the iconic races of the day. And back on the wall are the names of the races that have multiple championships for this great brand. Starting off over there with Ubiali, Provini, Surtees, then you have the great Agostini, Phil Reed, Cecil Sanford, Mike Halewood, and Gary Hawking in the back. Now all of these have got multiple championships on different bikes. Here you see a blue number board, then you have a green number board and a yellow number board, and that tells you whether it's a 250cc in the green, or a 350 with a blue, or the yellow being a 500cc racer. Now the iconic ones like this one, usually triples, later a 4-cylinder, but the yellow number board tells you it's the 500cc, the big races. Really iconic stuff, and I fortunately still have my F3 Agostini, signed by Agostini, an actual triple built in my collection. Yes, I did sell it, but funny story, seller's remorse, I bought it back. And here you can see on the exhaust pipes, you have 2 exhaust pipes or 3 exhaust pipe, as most of the important races were triples that Giacomo won his championship on. But all around you, wherever you look, you can just see that proud history and heritage of MV Agusta's racing. And all around. This is just, when in Italy, you have to come past here. You actually have to come see this museum and all the history in it. It's just absolutely brilliant. And I've been here before. I've done an episode on this museum before, and I've spoken about every single one of those races, all their championship, in what classes, what categories they won, and spoken about every single bike in that previous episode. So I can only recommend, if you are in Italy up close by Monza, you have to pop in, because walking around here, you can actually see, have a look at how detailed this is. This is the cutout in the tank for the knee, the shape in the tank for the arm, the attention to detail on the bigger bikes as well. Really, it wasn't just slapped together. Look at that racer, the shape. I mean, aerodynamically, they were already playing around how to tuck in, how to get in the aero position for the races. And you're talking way back when, in the 50s and early 60s. And even the road going bikes, reliability was there. Have a look at, here's a wall of all the race wins, championship milestones. It's just absolutely history galore here. Here are a few more of the little street bikes and early races. And here is a that white and red one over here, the Rapido Sport. I have one of those in my collections, very proud. Have had an offer on it, but no, I won't let go of that. Very cool little piece. But as you can see behind it, helicopters, because MV Agusta started life off as an aviation company. Here you can see the helicopter and all the helicopter internals, gearboxes, gearing. And when you walk outside, you see more of their current, and that's what the original MV Agusta factory is all about today. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick walk around of the MV Agusta Museum. If you want to see the full episode, I'll blend it in at the end. But if you enjoyed this episode, please remember, hit the like button, give me a thumbs up. Most important of all, guys, please remember, hit that subscribe button to help me build a channel. And if you like, the reminder bell, so you always know when I'm uploading something next.